But the impact this had on that lady to, the dog would give her 40 minutes warning, which meant she could go and get somewhere safe. For the first time in her life, she could actually go home, or she could call at a friend's, or kind of just a safe place, really. So the dog never stopped having a seizure, but it meant she was safe for the first time during that. And then she would get on and carry on with her day. And I think that has been something that has really, something that goes through with all our seizure clients, is for the first time in their life, they take control of the seizures rather than the other way around.
Welcome to The Consult Room, the podcast where we explore the evolving world of modern pet care. I'm Dr Paul Manktelow, a UK veterinary surgeon with a deep passion for pet health and welfare. In each episode, I'll be exploring key issues, challenging perspectives, and offering expert insight and practical advice. Because ultimately, my mission is to improve the lives of pets and the people who love them. Today, we're talking about a charity whose dogs don't just offer support, they change lives. Support Dogs is a UK charity that trains assistance dogs for people living with autism, epilepsy, and physical disabilities, helping families who often feel overwhelmed, isolated, or even unsafe. Their dogs give children confidence, provide life-saving seizure alerts, and help adults regain independence. My guests today are Rita Howson, who is Chief Executive of Support Dogs, and Rita's journey with the charity is something really special. She started as a volunteer 33 years ago and worked across multiple roles and eventually became CEO. She's seen the organisation from every angle and helped shape it into the nationally recognised charity it is today. Alongside Rita, I'm also joined by Danny Anderson, who is Rita's head of fundraising, who is here to give us some insights about the challenges that the charity is having in the current climate. And let's not forget Mia, the chocolate Labrador, who is a support dog in training, who I'm hoping is going to pop up from time to time during the episode. So we're going to explore the incredible impacts these dogs have, hear some of the stories behind the work, and learn how people can help support the charity's mission. Rita and Danny and Mia, welcome to the Consult Room.
Hey, Paul.
Hi, Paul. Thank you for having us.
So for listeners who may not know Support Dogs, could you give us a simple overview of who you are and the work that you do?
Go on, so you start.
Yeah. So we're an assistance dog charity, as you said, and we work with individuals that, we train dogs for that can kind of improve their day-to-day life. The dogs will do a variety of task work for that person, and the dogs are all tailor-trained to that individual. But they have the same access rights as guide dogs. So they're allowed into restaurants, shops, on public transport. So again, they can take the dogs out with them day to day.
So you've got a really long history with the charity. What first drew you to the charity, and where did your story with Support Dogs begin?
I think it was the dogs. The dogs drew. From being at a young age, I'd always wanted to be in the company of dogs. I was never allowed my own pet dog. So I always gravitated to the neighbours' dogs, used to take those for a walk. So yeah, just that passion. Again, as a teenager, I worked for the RSPCA, volunteering every weekend, every school holiday that I could. And then when went off, kind of did a lot of kind of animal care courses, and then stopped and had a break and had children. But once my children were at a young age, the passion was still there. I wanted to work with dogs. I saw an advert in the local paper asking for volunteers to train assistance dogs. I had no idea what an assistance dog was. It just said dog in the title. That was enough for me. So I started working a few hours a week. I never really looked back. Worked for about 5 or 6 years as a volunteer and got to know all about assistance dogs and just the amazing impact that they had on someone's life. And I think that was when I then started to kind of move over, not just with the dogs, but working with the people was also a big job satisfaction as well. And seeing the difference that dog made to that person. Just not in their life, but their personality and their mental health, their well-being. So yeah, and then just kind of evolved with the charity through tough times, through good times, and worked. Remember standing in a field with a collection tin. I think I got £1, a full rainy day in Boston. Yeah, I remember that well, on a muddy field. So done all aspects really. Just very, very involved with everything.
And is that what's kept you connected to the charity's mission for? I read it was 33 years that you'd been
Hmm.
with the charity. Is it that combination of your passion for dogs, but also that that impact on people's lives?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I think it's when you have, we got some wonderful stories, and but it's being involved with that individual person. You see them from, sometimes not wanting to go outside into the outside world, and, because of their medical condition. And then once we started to work with them and training the dog, you see their confidence grow, you see their independence grow, and then suddenly, that they're out, and a lot of times when you call them, they're not in. So, and it's just seeing that, it's just amazing. And with our seizure dogs, that even when you see the dogs alert to the person's seizure, their oncoming seizure, it still really sometimes makes you go goose pimply, even though I've been here 33 years, to just know that the dogs can do that and then, get that person somewhere safe.
Your website is fantastic, and it's just filled with so many powerful stories of people that you've helped. I just wonder if you could share a few of those for me, just, that really sort of capture the impact of your work across the different programs that you do.
So when I first started, and this was probably 1993, 94, and this is really the kind of birth of the Seizure Alert program. We used to, when we first started, predominantly work with the person's own pet dog in our disability program. So that was teaching the dogs to empty the washing machine, open and close doors. But we were quite well known at that time for looking at a variety of medical conditions, and people might have two or three conditions all in one. And we were really good at kind of helping it as an individual and tailor training the dog, not just one skill. And we worked with a young girl in Leeds. She lived in Chapeltown in Leeds.
No, well, it's my hometown.
Yeah, and she had learning difficulties, but she also had epilepsy. And there were many times that when she'd had a seizure out in public, she'd had some really unfortunate incidents. She had been mugged, she'd been raped, she'd been taken to the police station for being drunk or taking drugs. She'd had a really awful time. And the founder of the charity was a lady called Val Strong, and she had quite a medical background as well as her love for dogs. And she had read some anecdotal evidence that dogs can detect seizures or see the signs beforehand. And so she wanted to trial this out with this young lady, for to see if the dog could actually warn her. And to cut a long story short, she was successful. But the impact this had on that lady, the dog would give her 40 minutes warning, which meant she could go and get somewhere safe. For the first time in her life, she could actually go home, or she could call it a friend's, or kind of just a safe place, really. So the dog never stopped having a seizure, but it meant she was safe for the first time during that. And then she would get on and carry on with her day. And I think that has been something that has really, something that goes through with all our seizure clients, is for the first time in their life, they take control of the seizures rather than the other way around.
Yeah, and I think, sorry, that story was really sort of heartbreaking and then heartwarming at the same time, wasn't it? Because that lady's life before a dog just sounds so awful, and the experiences she's had are, as I said, really heartbreaking. And wow, yeah, this kind of left me a little bit lost for words. But have you got any other stories around your other programs? Because I know that you help children with autism, don't you? And you sort of touched on people with physical disabilities. But what about other stories there?
So so we trained the UK's first autism assisted dog. Was it 2007?
Yeah.
The range of stories for that program is huge because every child is individual, and if you know one child with autism, one autistic child, and that's it. Every story is different. But with the program we run, we really sort of focus on early years and trying to get that early intervention. So we focus on children probably up to placing that dog really up to that child being aged up to about maybe 10 years old, so in sort of primary school age. But most of the parents who contact us initially are worried about their child's safety, worried about that child stepping into traffic, running away, something spooks them or upsets them, and they just run off in a busy shopping centre or supermarket. And so that is the main reason why lots of families contact us. So for an instance, I feel like we're going to go for a Yorkshire angle for our stories in
Good.
a moment, Paul.
I like it.
You made you feel at home. So we with a really, really great story last year for a family up in Yorkshire. A little boy there, and he was on. He must be about 6 or 7, and the dog had been placed earlier that year. So again, leaving the house was really difficult anyway, and it was such a difficult process. But because of that dog, and that dog helps with so many things, and one of the things is about just that confidence of being out and about. So you've got that. One of our clients described it as a portable, safe place, really. So that dog's next to their side is giving them confidence, and also just giving them focus instead of on focusing on lights and noise and people and all the other things. They're focused on their super cool dog walking along their side and giving that focus. Anyway, they were walking to school. Now our dogs don't go into school with a child because the school should be set up to give them the support. And obviously there's practical problems for giving a 6-year-old a dog to handle during the school day as well. But the dogs will help take that child to school. So the boy was walking to school as he came, and the school was on a fairly busy road, and there was traffic going 30 miles an hour up that road. As he stepped into the playground, he saw another boy in that playground who he was scared of. He freaked out, turned and went to run across that road with cars zipping up that road. Now our dogs are trained to brace and stop that child. So the dog Elvis did what he's trained for, put his brakes on and stopped that child from stepping out into that road and pulled him back to safety just as the car was whizzing by. Obviously, his mum was in floods of tears of release, really, of that an awful thing didn't happen. But it was such a very obvious way, and so much of our work, especially with our autism program, isn't obvious, but it's such a really clear way of how our dogs have that impact. But beyond that sort of really very, I saved a life. So many of our stories about giving that child confidence. We have amazing stories about how the dogs help a child learn language and develop emotional skills and social skills. I remember when I first started Rita, we met a family here my first week. I was a bit after meeting her because you had films of her little boy, first time telling his mum he loved her.
Gosh, yeah.
And because he just developed that language through giving commands to the dog, and just speaking to dogs is far, as you know, Paul, far more easier than speaking to human beings. Because they listen more and they'll interrupt you and just give you that confidence to it.
The siblings, I mean, Danny was the kind of brain behind this, but he wanted to look at the impact on the siblings within that family as well, because a majority of the time there is a lot of focus on that autistic child in the family, and that day to day it's all kind of around them, and what you need to do, and everything is dictated in a sense.
Yeah, I think one of the children I was working with, the family was talking about, is that for the siblings, it's a life of compromise, really.
Yeah.
Everything's on the needs of their brother or their sister, and they get nothing for that, do they? So
yeah, and there was one family, and this always brought tears to me, and when she even says it now, it does. But they'd never been on a beach as a family, so they'd never all together sat and built sandcastles. And when they got their dog, which was a lovely golden Labrador retriever called Azalea, and for the first time ever, they'd all gone on the beach, sat on the beach, built sandcastles. The dog had run in the sea. And she always tells us when she goes to do like corporate events with us, when we're like kind of raising funds, and it's just, oh my God, and it's things that we take for granted, I think,
just being together as a family.
Just being together as a family, and it's not
Yeah.
mum does one thing and dad does another thing with the siblings.
It's so great. And if you could summarize sort of in all of those sort of cases that you see, and I know it's really hard to sort of probably do this, but if you could sort of summarize what life is like before a support dog for these families, and then what changes after the dog is placed.
Well, I think it's control, isn't it? I was struck when you first described what the charity did, when Paul asked you that first question. You talked quite about simple things. We didn't say it's life saving, because they are, and we didn't talk about, life changing. It's about day to day, and it's making the day to day possible and having that control to do it. So, with all our programs, our disability program, our autism program, our epilepsy program, yes, the dogs will alert you to the exact minute before every alert. They will pull you away from oncoming traffic. They will get you your medication and get help if you collapse at home. But actually, they'll also allow you to go to school. They'll allow you to go to the beach with your family. They'll allow you to get dressed, and they'll allow you to not think about your disability or your health condition, and to focus on having an amazing dog and having a family who you also want to care for.
Another thing, they open doors, don't they, for people? They create those opportunities
Yeah.
that they potentially wouldn't have had, and open doors to new opportunities or new adventures that those people didn't think they would probably ever be
Yeah,
able to do.
absolutely.
It sounds like it's almost giving people their life back
Mhm.
through those things that most of us take for granted. But, these people, these families are experiencing such sort of debilitating compromises on their lives. And actually these dogs can just get them back to being sort of happy and functional
Yeah,
again. Yeah.
yeah. And there's a wonderful quote that one of our seizure clients always says as well, and I think kind of sums the epilepsy program up, is where she said she used to have epilepsy with a little bit of life, and now she has life with a little bit of epilepsy. And I think that just
No,
kind of really sums that up.
Yeah.
well, it totally articulates the change that that dog has given her, hasn't it? And the pivot. That's amazing.
We have some amazing statistics, sort of, obviously, to back all this stuff up from our clients as well. And there's all sorts of stuff. Probably 80% have said family members have been able to return to work, and over 65% of our clients are either in education or in work. But also and there's all they're all more physically active and more independent, all amazing stuff like that. And then we also have this great stat about 46% said they're eating more healthily as well, which which isn't the dog stealing their sandwiches or their crisps. It's about that, having that control, because they've sort of got control over their health again. They're actually little things matter now, little things they control. So eating more health before, you're living with this long-term chronic condition, but actually eating a ton of Mars bars is the only enjoyment
Mm.
you're going to get, and you don't care because that your health's gone to bits, really. And then suddenly you've got a dog to care for. You're physically active.
And
You're
I think that's the
working. Your
key,
family to
isn't
care
it?
for.
That
Yeah,
care for, because part of that training is um, for this to work, then we require that individual to do all the work with the dog. They have to bond. They have to have a relationship. It's not that we're giving them a piece of equipment that is going to work whenever it's kind of switched on. It's more that you have to create that relationship. So it's feeding the dog, it's walking the dog, it's playing with the dog, it's having that bond and that relationship, and having cuddles and things like that. So, and then the dog will absolutely do everything, as we know, unless it's a Labrador, and then you just need a piece of. But
Yeah.
and that's part of the training. So it's not all about training the dogs. It's kind of how, caring for that furry little friend, and making sure that their welfare
That's,
needs are met too.
yeah. I think from
And it kind of gives them something to get up
I
for in the
think it's that
morning, and that,
psychological.
yeah.
Paul, you're a vet, and you don't do it just because you're a nice guy. You do it because you get a buzz from helping people and seeing that difference. I think people love to care for other people, and I think when you got that, you got a long term chronic condition, you're so much. Oh, take this because it'll help you. And everything's all about, helping you. And sometimes you want that, being able to help people, have that people being grateful to you, as it is with animals. It's really powerful for you
Mm,
from a mental health point of view, and feel like I'm actually, that dog's grateful to me, and I'm supporting that dog from doing things as well. So it's definitely that two-way interaction is really meant to be a
yeah.
really positive thing, isn't
And
it?
even
So yeah.
even with the children, which can be a little bit difficult because children get distracted really
Yeah.
easily with other things, but it's doing those little exercises with the children so that the dog knows that, just being around that child is rewarding enough.
I think that all really resonates with me, and especially that sort of thing where people are very socially isolated from whatever circumstances. And I see this a lot in the sort of charity veterinary sector, where people don't feel fully integrated in society, but having a dog or having a pet enables them to have that sense of responsibility. It enables them to have that something to care for, which ultimately makes them care more for themselves and gets them out and about, which is a fantastic thing. So it's great that you guys are seeing that firsthand. But I wanted to talk about the dogs a little bit. How does a dog become a support dog? Could you talk us through the journey from their selection to their full qualification, if that's what it's called?
Yeah. So we have quite a few sources where our dogs come in through. So we have a little puppy program. So we don't have a breeding program or anything. We work with kind of breeders that we have used before or recommended to us. And so they get a puppy from being 8 weeks old. We have lots of amazing volunteers that will care for that puppy for the first year and a half, and get the puppy used to all his social skills, obedience skills. We have puppy classes here. The trainer, they're monitored by a trainer. And so that's where, kind of a young dog can come through. We'll also take dogs as, like Maya, who's just the Chocolate Labrador, has been with us today. She came via a donation, so an unwanted pet, from a family that for various reasons couldn't take care of her anymore. So she comes to us and she has an assessment. We'll work with older dogs that might have come from other assistance dog organisations, such as guide dogs, hearing dogs, Dogs for Good. Again, if it's not the right job for them, working as a guide dog, for example, it could be a perfect career change that come to support dogs. And yes, so donations and wanted pets. So it's not always just the puppies, and it's not always just Labradors as well. In our disability program, then we work with people's own pet dogs. So we can have anything from Jack Russell right up to, I think once we had a St. Bernard.
Wow.
Yeah, so it goes.
To reach
Yeah, we're
those hard to
basically,
reach places.
yes. So it's very challenging for our trainers actually, because we're
Mm.
working with so many different breeds. But it's enjoyable as well. It's quite rewarding.
We've got a lot of doodles at the moment. haven't
Yeah,
we?
we've got lots of doodles come through,
Yeah.
various doodles. So yeah, so that's how we kind of get our dogs in. We do an assessment on the dog. So we're looking for personality and temperament. We need the dog to be trainable, but we need it to also be actually quite bomb-proof in all environments, and with people, other dogs, children.
Confidence to me always seems the biggest thing, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
Really?
yeah. Looking at the dog's really confident in lots and lots of environments and situations. Once so if they've been a puppy, they'll be doing all their kind of early years training. Once they come into what Danny always refers to in his literature as big school, they come in and they're a little bit more advanced training, working one-to-one with our dog trainers. And this is where they're a little bit more advanced on their social skills, going into shops, restaurants. This is where dogs don't normally go, public transport. They'll also do a lot bit more obedience, and maybe start to tailor train to whichever program they're going to work in. So they might have to do a little bit of walking at the side of a wheelchair, for example. And then the kind of really exciting stuff is doing all the task works, whether that's opening and closing doors, emptying the washing machine, fetching help with dressing, undressing. And again, tailor once during that period as well, when they're kind of in their big school period, we start to look at the personality of the dog as well, and which program we feel he would work best in. Uh, so, we're looking for quite a laid back dog to work in our autism program. We're looking for quite a dynamic dog to work in the seizure program. So yeah, so it's kind of all decided during that period. Alongside of this, we're doing interviews with applicants and almost starting to match the dogs, the kind of profile of the dog to the profile of the client. And then we do kind of
Yeah,
match days.
because lots of the clients we have wouldn't necessarily have ever had a dog before, even Laura
Yeah.
Day. So it'll be their first experience having a dog, and that certainly with the there's a lot of training goes on the human side of things, and we talk conversation we never have so much about how do you train the dogs, but there's a lot of human training really involved in all of
Gosh,
this.
Yeah, because they still need their day-to-day care as well, don't they? Obviously, I know
Absolutely,
they're doing a
yeah,
yeah.
phenomenal
and
job.
And it's really so as part of the training process, clients come to our HQ here in Sheffield, and they're here for several weeks, and it's really intensive, isn't it? It's a lot they
Yeah,
need to learn.
definitely. Yeah.
We're giving them, they're provided this wonderfully sort of tailor trained dog to them, and then it's them picking up the reins and understanding all they need to do to make that
Yeah. It's
make it
kind of going
work.
through the instruction manual and things like that. But then a lot
Yeah.
of that is centered on that bonding as well, because,
Mm.
the dog's been with us obviously is really, kind of bonded to his trainer. So it's kind of getting the dog then to kind of change that focus and to see that their new handler is the most exciting thing that they've ever met
Yeah.
before. So
And I was going to ask that as well, because when I've seen dogs in this situation, when they've got a very clear purpose and they have a lot of attention and a lot of focus, they always seem really engaged and happy. And I think it is because of that, isn't it? That they're constantly working. We see it as work, don't we? But they see it as focus and engagement, don't they? So
mhm.
do they generally all really sort of enjoy the work that they do?
Yeah, yeah, and it's like some people think, and we've had kind of various kind of comments over the years of 30 years where people have maybe thought, oh, they're kind of little robots and they don't really have any life, in between working. Actually, I mean, when we've filmed them, they are so happy. And I mean, I've
Yeah.
trained dogs in the past that sometimes you can't get to switch off. You'll be sat watching the TV and they're fetching you absolutely everything.
So, I mean, obviously, you've just explained the process of sort of training these dogs, which clearly takes a very long time, a lot of effort with a lot of sort of people involved. But demand for these dogs is huge, isn't it? What are your waiting lists like?
Oh, it's crazy, Paul. So we had about 29,000 people contact this or was in touch with the charity last year through various means to these show interest in our work. We currently work with about 155 families at the moment, so there's a bit of a gap there at the moment where we need to be. And while our work it isn't a solution for everyone, even a small increase on that would be huge. We're at the moment going through a bit of a growth stage for our charities. Last year, we purchased an old warehouse. We're in the process of redeveloping that and doing a bit of a capital appeal at the moment, and that will allow us to probably increase our capacity by about three times. So that would be a significant
Yeah.
go. So that would be, instead of having 25 new dogs placed out each year, would take us to 75 new dogs placed out each year, which would be a big growth for us, but also allow us to develop some community services as well. We're very much, and pretty much all our last 33 years, been focused on one-on-one
hmm
partnerships where have this incredible, genuinely life-saving impact. From why when we're looking at these huge numbers, we can look at how we can at least do some impact to a wider number of people. So we have been working with schools and education providers, even local football clubs who've got community projects where they're working with kids who, for whatever reason, are able to access school or other education providers at the moment. And so we're providing sort of support and helping with the education process with them through our dogs. But then it's working with other charity service providers to look at how our dogs help in such a wide range. You said, when the charity first started 33 years ago, you really looked at a wide range of
Yeah,
programs,
we
didn't
did. I
you?
mean, we worked with dementia back then, we worked with diabetes. Anything really was just kind of looking at that kind of model of that individual and saying, how can we help? How can the dogs help and make, kind of improve your day? And it's kind of looking at that again. And obviously, with being a charity and everything, relying on kind of donations, we looked at kind of streamlining, but it's really with having this new property, I think this is going to open our door for us to look at new opportunities for us and look at other areas that we can help. And I think the work that Danny did around the siblings and the impact it has on a wider, rather than just the individual, but a wider scope, I think I think we could really make a difference in that area too. Still continue obviously what we do as our
Mm.
core, but look at how can we help more people with one dog
Yeah.
as such.
And in sort of practical terms, then, because obviously it's not just the cost of training the dog. It feels like there's a whole process of placing them, where, like you said, there you've got quite an involved process with the families, and presumably, you've got quite a lot of aftercare after placement as well. Do you have an idea of how much it sort of costs to place a dog within a family in that sort of situation?
Yeah, so we say up to placing the dog. So once that dog is placed, we charity would have spent the best part of at least £30,000 on that partnership. I'm guessing that stage and that client to that stage where that dog's working qualified in the household. Once once that dog's qualified, that dog's gonna be working for about 8 years till they retire. So usually they're out around about
Around about 10.
2.5 years old. They go out and they retire around about 10 years of age. So they're working for about an average 8-year career. And our charity is there providing 24/7 support. So it's but before I joined Support Dogs all those years ago, I used to I envisioned you place a dog and that's it, and it's certainly
Mm,
not.
no.
We're supporting people with conditions like MS, which is deteriorating change, so that dog needs to meet those changes. We talk about our autism program. We've got an autistic child who's 7 or 8. When that dog's placed with them, there's quickly going to be teenagers and their lifestyles will change. And hopefully, what they want them to do, because the food a dog means they're going to be more active and more socially active. And so the demand for that dog's going to change as well. So we need to be there supportive throughout. So then, yeah, we've got that ongoing cost of supporting those partnerships.
So if we sort of looked ahead, and because I know the fundraising environment is really challenging at the moment for all charities, but if funding was no barrier at all, if resources were no barrier at all, what would your vision be for support dogs in the future?
Well, with that demand for our work, it's got to be trying to how we can meet that demand. And I think we've when we look at our work at the moment and people see the dogs and the dogs are wonderful and everything, but we really want to try and get that message to policymakers at the moment. There's so much talk about the increase in social care costs and an aging population and and how can we meet that need and how we can meet that need, and it's going to cost, raising taxes and the rest of it. And there's a wonderful solution which Rita's been heading up for the last 33 years, are these incredible support dogs. And these dogs have hundreds of years been making a significant impact on people's lives. I really understand that, if Jeff Bezos had invented Maya, who's with us today, and the NHS would be funding us to high heaven, and it'd be seen as a genuine serious medical device. But because for whatever reason, because they're cute and fluffy and have a wonderful waggy tail, for some reason they're not seen as a serious medical solution.
Mhm.
But we hopefully, maybe in the course of been speaking to you more, just indicating that wide impact on every aspect on someone's health, on someone's mental health, their physical health, their health impact on their family, their capacity to get employment, their capacity to go into education. It's huge. What we ideally want is for everyone to be able to access this service, and whether that's through government funding or through having no limits on our own resources. Everyone should be able to access this because our charity focuses on 3 main programs: disability, autism, and epilepsy. But as Rita mentioned, historically we've worked across when we first started worked across a wide range of things, and there's no limit really where those dogs can make a difference.
Mm. That's a great answer. Thank you. And if anybody that's listening that wants to sort of support your work or wants more information, where can they go?
Please come to visit our website, supportdogs.org.uk, or check us on our social media. I think Instagram is a really good place. So Support Dogs UK.
But what's the best way to support your cause, Danny?
Please make a donation. It's the
Yeah.
number one way. We do have various spots for support dog things, which are great for Christmas, and various other ways you can support us. But yeah, just go and come and make a donation. I mean, if you live in South Yorkshire and you would like to get involved in volunteering, that is also really valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did see your support dogs. I love the bit on your website where it talks about their superpower. And these dogs, they are superheroes, aren't they?
Absolutely,
When
yeah.
you hear about what they do. Okay, so I've got my final question for you both, and I'm going to ask Rita first. And I ask all guests this: if there was one pet or one person that's inspired you in your career, can you tell me about their story? I know it's going to be really hard for you to narrow it down to one, but here's the challenge for your question.
Yeah. I think it would have to be one of our clients. And I think it was when I was quite young, when I first started with support dogs, came across a lady, a little bit younger than myself actually, that came for her dog trained. And at the time she was kind of no children. She was an unmarried lady and her life was just, yeah, it was awful, her life at that time. And she came with a rescue dog and she wanted us to train the rescue dog. And this dog had equally had such an awful, awful background. He's been wrapped in tin foil and put in the oven, and it was just awful, some of the stories. But equally, both of them were just, so sad. And we went through the training, and her life has just thrown her so many challenges throughout that time. But she's married, she has two girls, both autistic. Husband has a medical condition, and she is now, alongside of her epilepsy, she's also visually impaired. And it just seems to be one thing after another, that, challenge that she's faced. And yet she's just so much good. And she's one person that just gets up and goes constantly. And I think for me, that's so inspiring to say that, we all have bad days, we all have bad things happen to us, but to just keep getting up and going and life not letting you, bring you down. And so that's got to be an inspiring person for me.
Well, thank you. And, the fact that her and the dog are doing it together is
Yeah.
wonderful, isn't it? Danny, same question.
I guess my memory, I always wanted a dog as a child, and I wasn't allowed one. So I kept wanting one, and our some family members had a lovely black lab called Toby. So I remember about 10 years of age, they came to stay, and they all went, oh, must be 10 or 11, maybe 11. And they all went and said, oh, you can look after Toby for the day. You go and take him for a walk. And I remember, being so excited and going off on my own with Toby, running take him to the field and let him off. I'm being really excited. Right, we're going to play with you, Toby. Let him off the lead. As he disappeared in the distance, running away, that fear of, oh my God, I've lost Toby. And having that has really stuck with me ever since. A dog now. 30 years later, at last, having that respect for all our dog trainers, get that dog to do anything, like even just stay with you on the field, is certainly stuck with me. Yes,
so I'm not sure if Toby inspired you or traumatized you, but thank you for that story.
Oh, shouldn't have had ever. They did fine, and Toby was fine. He just went off back to
yeah, made his own way home. Rita, Danny, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been really inspiring to hear about your work and, of course, the incredible dogs and how they're transforming lives every day. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode. You'll find all the relevant links to this conversation in the show notes. If you enjoyed it, please follow us and leave a review. It really helps other people discover the podcast. For more insights on topics like this, you can connect with me on social media at Dr Paul the Vet, or check out my website, theconsultroom.co.uk.